Okay, let's do our deep dive. We're looking at the headlines from Tuesday, May 13th, 2025.
Right.
The idea, as always, is to try and uh, connect some dots. See the bigger picture behind the day's news.
Exactly how these different pieces might actually fit together.
And we've got a lot today. Economic warnings, trade talk, politics in D.C.
And protests still ongoing. It's quite a mix.
So first up, let's talk economy. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's warning we could hit the debt ceiling by August.
Yeah, and he's saying Congress really needs to act, raise or suspend it by mid-July.
In July. What's the core worry there? Why the urgency?
Well, it's the borrowing limit. If the U.S. government can't borrow more money, it risks defaulting on its debts.
Defaulting. That sounds serious.
Oh, it is. It could cause significant financial instability, think market turmoil, interest rate spikes. Oh. It could even touch on national security concerns, potentially.
Okay, and this is happening just as the Fed decided to keep interest rates where they are, right?
Steady. Correct. So the Fed's holding steady provides a bit of calm on the borrowing cost front for now.
Right.
But that looming debt ceiling deadline, that uncertainty could completely overwhelm any stability the Fed is trying to create. If Congress doesn't sort it out, the stable rates won't matter much if there's a default crisis.
All right, okay. Let's pivot to trade then. President Trump, he's saying a baseline 10% tariff stays, even with new deals.
Yes, that's the announcement, a sort of default tariff level, though he did mention potential exemptions.
Exemptions if countries offer, significant trade terms.
Exactly. So the stated goal seems to be, protecting U.S. industries, pushing for what they see as fair trade.
So the tariff is a baseline, maybe a negotiating tactic?
It certainly looks that way. A tool to encourage deals favorable to the U.S. The question is, how will other countries react? Will we see more trade friction?
Meanwhile, back in D.C., there's the appointment of Jeanine Pirro, the Fox News host.
As interim U.S. attorney for D.C., yes.
That's definitely raising some eyebrows. What's the main discussion point there?
It really centers on that line between media, politics, and the judiciary. Critics worry about, political influence on legal matters.
And supporters.
Supporters would likely point to her background as a prosecutor and judge. It definitely highlights those complex relationships in Washington.
And outside D.C., we're still seeing May Day protests. Los Angeles, Chicago, New York.
Yeah, the demonstrations are continuing.
What are the core issues being raised? Still labor rights, immigration?
Primarily, yes.
Yeah.
Labor rights, immigration policies, and also concern over those recent federal layoffs we've seen.
It feels like a persistent unease.
I think so. It shows these aren't just isolated complaints. They reflect wider anxieties about economic security, social policies, maybe linking back to that economic uncertainty we talked about earlier.
Okay, lastly, the markets. Stocks actually closed higher Friday after the Fed news.
They did, yes. A bit of relief, perhaps, that rates weren't hiked.
But it wasn't all positive. You mentioned Disney was up, but Alphabet, Google's parent company, was down.
Right. It's a mixed bag. It shows that while the big Fed decision matters, individual company news, earnings, outlooks, they still really drive specific stocks.
So Disney must have had some good news.
Presumably. And Alphabet, well, maybe less so, or just broader tech sector pressures. It's a reminder that the overall market trend doesn't lift all boats equally.
So putting it all together, debt ceiling worries, ongoing tariff strategies, a controversial appointment in D.C., continued social protests, and jumpy markets.
It paints a picture of, interconnectedness, definitely, but also a lot of uncertainty across the board, economic, political, social.
None of these things are happening in a vacuum.
Not at all. They're likely influencing each other in ways we're still figuring out.
So here's something to think about for you listening.
Yeah.
When you look at all these threads, the debt ceiling fight, the trade tactics, the shifts in D.C., the public demonstrations, the market reactions, which single one do you think holds the most power to really define the rest of 2025?
It's a tough question. Which domino falls first or hardest?
Exactly. Worth considering how these seemingly separate news items might just be telling one larger story.